And you want a stale baguette. It cuts so much nicer. I'm cutting this to about that size. Start off by cutting all your baguettes, all your slices from your baguette. When you have a few, you're going to lay them down on a baking tray, and that's where you'll assemble all of your appetizers. Makes it super quick, and then you can bake them off all at the same time as well. When the baguette is super fresh, they are sometimes too soft to cut this thin. And if you're worried about them drying out, then you can certainly wet a paper towel and just place it over top. Prevents them from getting too dry. From one baguette, you can almost get, one full-length baguette, you can almost get 50 little slices. You can even toast these even further if you want to use them for a charcuterie board. Season them with a little butter, olive oil, garlic, parsley, any sort of herbs you can put right into that oil and butter mixture. Brush it on lightly, and you can bake it at 350 for about 2 minutes. So once I'm finished cutting my baguettes, we're going to make 3 different types of appetizers. We're making a jerk chicken appetizer, and then a Greek lemon chicken appetizer, and finally a mushroom tarragon appetizer. So for the chicken appetizers, the easiest way that I find for you to make them is to buy a rotisserie chicken, and then we're gonna make a little mixture. So you really only need onions, chicken, cheese of choice, white Gouda or white cheddar goes really well, and jerk seasoning. So keep it simple, because you certainly don't want to be in the kitchen all day, especially if you're entertaining quite a few guests. Make it easier on yourself. And I'm going to bring this over in just a second, and you're going to see how many little pieces of baguette you can keep on just one tray. And you can pre-make these trays, cover them with cling film, and place them one on top of the other. So they're all prepped, ready to go. All you have to do is put them in the oven just before you serve them. Okay, it looks like I've got my baguettes all done. And this is what it looks like. So there's 6 across, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So maybe 42, close to 50. And that was actually just about 3/4 of that baguette. Okay, now I'm going to start making the jerk filling that I'm going to put on top of this. But before I do that, I'm adding just a smidge of light avocado oil to each of the tops. You can certainly flavor the oil, and that adds so much more flavor. But because my jerk filling mixture that's going on top is going to be packed with flavor, I don't think that I really need to do that. Preheat your oven to 350 when your guests arrive and you're ready to go. It's great if you have 3 to 4 of these baking trays. Okay, now I'm going to switch over to my induction. Whoops. Throw my pan on there. And I'm going to put a little bit of the oil to heat up. I've got it going on about medium. I pre-cut everything. It makes the process go faster. So I've pre-cut my onions for all 3 recipes. And once it's heated up just a little bit, it's time to put some of those onions in and let them saute off. I'm also using this jerk seasoning. You can use whichever seasoning you like. Just want to see that again. And if you season the onions and the oil, it really brings a lot more flavor to the chicken. I just grabbed a Costco rotisserie chicken and chopped it up into pieces that are this size. You can hear the onions starting to sizzle. I'm going to let that go. If you hate the onions making your eyes water, here's a little trick. I put the onions in the freezer for about 5 minutes before I'm ready to cut them. And it completely prevents your eyes from stinging. It also, for some reason, helps the onions cook faster. Let's raise the temperature a little bit. Can you smell the jerk seasoning? Yeah. Nice. Now you can add more jerk seasoning or add less, personal preference really, but when you're doing appetizers, I try and keep it kind of middle of the road, because you never know when there's somebody who's sensitive to the spice or the heat level. And just bear in mind that the amount of seasoning also has to season the chicken. So you might want to add a little bit more once the chicken goes in. But I really want to cook off my onions first before I add the chicken. Instead of adding more oil, you can add a smidge of water if you want to help it along or if it seems to be drying out. And if it seems to be sticking, you can add a smidge of water. And that'll deglaze it. Now, part of why I want to cook the onions down is because this is going to go on top. So I really want them to be soft enough that they couldn't hold the structure and hold the chicken rather than sort of stand apart on their own. I'm adding about that much. And again, I'm adding more water. And a little more seasoning. You can press down on the chicken. I added little cubes of chicken, so I'm pressing down just to break up the chicken. So we'll let that go for another minute or so. Now it looks a bit blah, right? It looks a little bit not so pretty in color. So you can add some browning sauce to give it a bit of a richer color. A little bit goes a long way with this stuff. And once your onions are completely cooked, and the chicken and the onions have come together, add a little more water. The water also helps bring them together. And as with anything that you make, it's always time to taste. This is really where you want to add more or add salt, pepper. And I would say that is absolutely delicious. So I think that part is done. Okay, I'm going to take this off. Give me 1 second. Okay, we're going to quickly switch pans. And we're going to our second filling. And our second filling, again, starts with some oil in the pan. And let's add some onions. About that much. And let that cook down first. This is going to be a sort of Greek-influenced chicken topping. So I'm putting some oregano. And some garlic salt. Keep in mind that your chicken is already salted, so go easy on the salt at the beginning. I'm adding some black pepper. And usually if I do a fresh red onion, my eyes would begin to sting at this point. And there's nothing. Once you freeze the onion and start using it, you don't have that effect. So watch that cook down. I'm also adding some lemon zest. I think a lot of people wonder whether this works, so I'll just do it upside down so you can see. Sorry, didn't mean to make that noise. I'm also adding some fresh lemon juice. So it looks like the onions have sort of wilted away and softened up. Time to add our chicken. I think that should be good. I'm doing the exact same thing where I'm adding water, where I use that to bring these two flavors together. Thank you. And I'm keeping it on medium. You can tell when the mixture is close to being done, the chicken will start to break down as well. And this tastes just amazing. on your crostini. It's a very satisfying bite. Just break that chicken down so it makes it easier for you to place the chicken mixture right onto the baguette. You have bigger chunks, there's a tendency for the pieces to fall off when you top them all off. Excellent. Okay, now I'm going to add a little feta to the top. It's going to give it a punch of saltiness and a bunch of flavor. Okay, just got to wash my hands now because you get feta all over your hands, but that is the best way to crumble it. And I love cooking on the stainless steel pans, but you don't have to worry about it sticking to the pan. A little water goes a long way. Just watch your hands because the steam is very, very hot. Okay, so we're almost at the last filling now. I'm going to put a little more water here, loosen that all up. And while that loosens, I'm just going to grab a bowl. Because we're going to make the third and final mixture in the exact same pan. It takes minutes when you're using rotisserie chicken as your base. You can make a whole bunch of toppings in just a few minutes. Okay, so now I'm going to drop that into a bowl. Okay, now I'm not going to worry too much about the little bits on there. I'm adding more oil to the pan. And this time I'm adding all the balance of the red onions. And this one is one of my favorites. If you had vegetarians, obviously you would use a separate pan. But in our case, we don't have vegetarians at this event, so it won't matter.
What would you substitute chicken for?
You could substitute chicken with tofu. You can use paneer. I'm also now adding the cremini mushrooms that I've chopped up. And now, because there is no chicken going into this topping, I'm adding some salt right off the bat. If you enjoy tarragon, which we absolutely do, it makes this delicious. It's got a unique flavor. And I find you either love it or absolutely do not like it. If it starts sticking, don't worry. The mushrooms start releasing water, and that will, in and of itself, start to release the bits and pieces on the pan. If you pat it down, you can see all the steam coming up, and that's not just from the water or the onions, it's also very much from the mushrooms. This tastes absolutely delicious with a bit of Gouda on top. Or you can top it off with a nice smoky cheddar. And I like making all my fillings first, and then I can assemble all of my crostinis at the same time. And I generally put all the crostinis that I'm going to serve for that kind of hour together. So as a rule of thumb, I serve more of the protein-based crostinis in the first hour. I find that your guests tend to have 4 to 6 in the first hour that they come to a dinner event, especially if they're there for just appetizers. Then the chances are in the first hour or hour, 2 hours, they'll consume between 4 to 6, hour 1 and hour 2, and then 2 to 3 for the next 3 hours. But then if you have guests that stay longer than that, they tend to consume, they go back to the 4 to 6. Sometimes we will just do pizza slices kind of around the 11 o'clock mark. It's when you get those nibblies.
Nibblies, that's not really a word, is it?
I guess that's my word. Munchies. Is that the word that most would use? I guess munchies. Okay, sorry, I'm making a bit of a mess, more of a mess than I normally would because I'm doing it sideways. It's just easier if you clean as you go. Now the same with this mixture. If it looks a bit anemic and you want to give it some color, you can go back to using some browning sauce. A little goes a long way. That's not even a quarter of a teaspoon. And by mixing it around, the only issue that you can watch out for is if it hits the pan straight away, you want to release it. The other thing that I would look out for or watch out for is a lot of people tend to serve quite a bit of dairy, not realizing that even for those that are not lactose intolerant, if you have a ton of dairy in one go, it can make for a rumbly tummy. So it's nice to spread out the dairy if you're setting it out. I like to loosen the stuck-on bits. Just makes life easier for later on. This is also almost done. And you get your onions turned into almost a jammy texture. And honestly, you can have this as done as you would like. I just find that the mushrooms absorb so much more flavor the more that they're done. And they're also easier to top when they're well done. And I cut them fairly thin. Whoop, there we go. That's delicious. I'm adding a smidge of pepper. Then I think I will add a smidge more of the salt. The salt really helps bring out that tarragon flavor as well. And just like that, we have 3 toppings done. I'm going to move the mixture over and just add a little bit of water to get rid of that. Okay, now we are going to switch over to the pan so that I can start topping off the crostinis. So give me 1 second. You got it? Okay. If you're looking to add a bit of color, I just chopped up some kale and I put it in the microwave for 15 seconds and I just have these little pieces. Tidy. 2 new spoons. Okay, so I'm just going to check where you can see from. Does that go? Perfect. Okay, so we're topping it off. We're topping off. Doesn't matter where you start wherever you want. Now this will not hold just like this, so you do have to top it off with a cheese. Or the alternative is if you didn't want to bake it, you could place some cream cheese underneath and then top it off that way. While I'm having a dinner party, I often have my oven set at 350 and I label these with a little sticky note to know which one goes in roughly at what time. It just allows me to kind of enjoy the party without having to worry about whether I put something in or not. So I think I'm going to do 3 rows of the jerk chicken. Okay. Now, before I do cheese, I'm just moving on to the next topping. Is that warm? It may be a little bit toasty, so I'll get it. Oops, sorry. Now I'm moving on to, actually, sorry, that was the Greek chicken. Now I'm moving on to the jerk chicken. And this is so cost effective. These are pennies to make when you do it this way.
And catering businesses are charging so much for appetizers.
That's so true. They charge per piece now.
It's crazy.
And these would be anywhere between 50 cents to $1 per piece. Yep. As much as you can, it's better if you don't drop it like I am onto the baking tray. For ease, you could also, of course, line your baking tray. And let's do one more. Okay. We're going to move on to the mushroom mixture. To create a crunch factor on the top of these, now bear in mind that the bottoms will become crunchy as soon as they come out. But if you wanted a crunch factor on top, you could add things like pomegranates. You could add crispy onions. Sometimes I've added cut up seaweed paper. I fry rice paper, crunch it up, and I can add that. I have added chopped up celery. So there's almost anything you can think of that is crunchy can go on top. Okay, so now that we've added all of those, it's time to add the cheese.
What cheese are you using?
This one is a white cheddar. On the side, I've also got some mozzarella. And it really, the cheese carries the flavor, in my opinion, or it accents the flavor. So if you use a nice Gouda, there's already feta in the mix, in the Greek mixture. Oh, missed one. So those ones don't need too much. This is really kind of the glue. It holds everything together. And you don't need a ton of cheese on each one, just enough to kind of hold it together. And we are going to top it off with that kale. So like I said, it's so much easier to do that, to do this prep before the event. And you can then wrap this with cling film and place it in your fridge. Or these days you could almost place it outside if you had a, you can also, if you're lacking room, another idea is to have a big cooler where you set these into the cooler, just enough cheese, there we go. And then wrap it with cling film and just lay them one on top of the other. This is now going to go into the oven under the broiler for just about 2 minutes. Everything is cooked, so it just needs the cheese to melt off the top. It's so much easier if you clean as you go. So here's the rotisserie chicken that I used. I find that one rotisserie chicken can give you up to 80 appetizers because you're using very little chicken for each appetizer. So I'm going to put this down here because we're going to put the appetizers on top. And if I haven't said hi to you, it's just, this is our first time using this, so. All right, so this is the topping that we're gonna use. And it's just cut up kale that I've washed first, and then I cut it up into small manageable pieces. And I put it in the microwave for 10 to 15 seconds. And it softens it and brings that beautiful color back out, right? So that should be coming close to being done. This rotisserie chicken, even for making suppers, is a great way to use to make a quick and easy pasta by using the rotisserie chicken because it takes on whatever flavor you want. I've made French onion soup pasta. I make all sorts of Thai flavored enhanced pastas with this chicken. How are we doing there? Almost done?
Yeah.
How's that looking? Awesome. So just like that, you have all of these appetizers done. Now I'm just going to show you how different it looks when you just add a little bit of green to the top. And I try and get this green piece of kale onto it as soon as it comes out of the oven because it sticks better. It really doesn't change the flavor all that much. And I like to have appetizers that are 1-biters or 2-biters, especially if people are holding a beverage of some sort in their hand. It makes it easier to pop it into their mouths. Now, some of these pieces are a little bit big, so you can just break them off and add them to the top. And if you are interested or keen on any other appetizers, later in the week, I'm going to be showcasing some of my easy puff pastry appetizers that I will also use along with some protein. So you've got the sweet and the savory, but just to give you an idea, this is what the finished product sort of looks like. Thanks for joining me. Take care and follow my channel if you're looking for easy, quick, delicious recipes, whether they're appetizers or baked goods or dinners.